It's okay. In terms of the opening announcement, we won't go through the comments about relations to members and people who are attending from remotely because there's none today. So we'll skip that. For attendees in the chamber, obviously it goes without saying, if you wish to ask a question, make a comment, please put your hand up. The microphone will turn green and you'll be invited to speak then one at a time. Okay, it's 4 p.m. Can I ask everyone to mute their microphones? Thank you. Prynawn da poib croeso I cyfarfod heddiw. Good afternoon and welcome to Corporate Support and Resources Committee meeting Tuesday the 20th of December 2022. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. Can I ask you to start recording the meeting, please? Brilliant. Okay, we'll go on to the main agenda for today. Item 1, apologies for absence. I believe we've got 2, Mair. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 2, which are declarations of interest. Have we got any declarations of interest today?
Well, got to leave it 4:30. Apologies, but other meeting.
Okay. We've got no declarations of interest. We'll move on to agenda item 3, which is the draft annual equalities report. We've got Laura Townsend here today. Is it Claire Williams? And Claire Williams, thanks for attending. And Councillor Barry's here as well. We'll have seen the summary of the report set out on page 5 and the purpose of the report then on page 2.1. So I'll hand over. Andrew, are you starting it? Yeah. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. So it's the draft annual equality report 2021-22, a retrospective report covering April 21 to March 22. The legislation requires the annual report of the authority to address our objectives and progress against those objectives, Chair. The report is attached to Appendix 1, laid out at 3.3 to 3.4, page 6 of your papers. You'll see an outline of the protected characteristics covered within the legislation. It is important to reiterate that the Merthyr Tydfil Equalities vision, before going into the achievements over the past year, that obviously include the response to the COVID pandemic, a place where diversity is valued and respected, and everyone can participate, flourish, and have the opportunity to fulfill their potential free from discrimination and prejudice. One of our greatest achievements is related to the accessibility in relation to our website, Chair. Measured by the index called the Silktide Accessibility Index that measures inclusivity, content experience, and helps drive the authority's objectives in relation to equality. In 2020, our website was assessed as very poor. As of June 2022, we are now the first Welsh council to be ranked in first place of all councils throughout Wales in relation to accessibility. Joint first, actually, but first nonetheless. We have Lorna, as you identified earlier, Chair, and Claire with us today. We'll give a little more detail there and answer any questions in relation to the report. There is a forward within the attached report by Councillor Gareth Richards. He's our equalities champion. There has been a practical support resource pack for Scrutiny Committee members produced in 2021, which members will have had sight of by now, Chair, I believe. 2021 into 2022 has seen the sort of turmoil, disruption, new working methods, change in working practices, life balance, and the work to keep pace from an equalities perspective has been significant. Community cohesion with a diary of emerging and existing events to commemorate, celebrate, and just give some thought to some of the issues is ever growing. Windrush Day, Hate Crime Awareness Week, Anti-Slavery Day, International Women's Day, Holocaust Memorial Day, Black History Month, Gypsy Romany Traveller Month, and the list goes on. I think the Red House is running out of coloured lights to commemorate most of these things up. Our youth mayor and cabinet and schools have played a major role in promoting equality over the year, and are covered within the attached report, highlighting their contribution. Our contribution to the recognition of the armed forces has grown exponentially. The time of this report being written, Gwarth High School, for example, were working towards the Bronze Award of the Supporting Service Children Education. Subsequently, they've achieved that award. The council in interim have also achieved the Silver Award from the Ministry of Defence, the Employers Recognition Scheme. Welsh language, housing, staffing, internal procurement are all covered. All of these areas are touched by the work of equalities, but that list obviously is not exhaustive. At this point, Chair, if I bring Lorna in to cover some detail within the report, and Claire's with her as well, and any questions we have, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Barry. Lorna?
Thank you, Councillor Barry. So as you'll see from the report, a lot of great work's been done in 2021, 2022, previous to that, and obviously ongoing. This is a retrospective report, so obviously we're looking back at that, and I'd just like to reinforce some of the messages really already mentioned by Councillor Barry. As you'll see within the report, there are 5 key themes. Well, within our strategic equality plan, there's 5 key themes and objectives, and our work and our actions within this annual equality report link to those objectives that we've set in 2020. So they are inclusive engagement and participation, community cohesion, inclusive and diverse workforce, gender equal pay, and accessible services. So we will be looking to engage and consult on our next strategic equality plan for 2024 to 2028 next year. And obviously we'd love as much involvement in that as possible from everyone really, to ensure that, you know, the objectives that we set going forward are relevant as well for the community. So for this report, you'll see that work's been undertaken across all the themes and objectives. We've been working a lot really on making our services more accessible for people, especially regarding the website, removing the barriers that people face when they do access our services. As Councillor Barry has mentioned, our Silk Tide accessibility score has increased to 100 out of 100. We are now ranked joint first out of all UK councils that were tested, not just within Wales, but in the UK. So as of today, there are 7 councils ranked 100 out of 100, and we are one of them. So that is a good achievement, and a lot of work's been done on that. Secondary to that as well, we've also introduced an accessibility toolbar on our corporate website. It's called Recite Me, and allows users to change fonts, styles, languages, and it's to encourage more people to access our website, but also to remove barriers that people may face if they have, for example, autism and visual impairments, and they don't speak English and Welsh as their first language. So that's a really good achievement, and we've had some positive feedback on that as well. So that toolbar basically supports translation into different languages. I think there's about 100 on there, which is great. And we do get some statistics from Recite Me on usage as well. We're also looking at ways to improve our data gathering by reviewing our monitoring forms and our workforce data, and obviously our consultation and engagement data as well, because we want to ensure that we're engaging with all communities. We want to ensure that we've got an inclusive and diverse workforce. We want to ensure equity of pay across Merthyr. We want to have accessible services. We want to ensure people feel safe in the community that they live. So they're the things that are within our strategic equality plan, and I think the actions and the work that's been done contribute to that as well. So like I said, there's been a lot of great work undertaken, not just within one team, but across the whole organisation. It's everyone's responsibility to ensure that we treat people fairly and equally. And I think a lot of great work's been done, including schools, housing, community cohesion, our impact assessment processes, corporately, disability sport, and many, many other things. So yeah, for us as an organisation, we do have a duty to give due regard to eliminate unlawful discrimination, advance equality of opportunity, and foster good relations. And this is evident in the actions that we've undertaken. For those who know me, know I'm very passionate about this work and making positive improvements for people's lives in the community, and ensuring that we continue to meet our equalities vision. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. So yeah, Claire and I will take any questions that you have, any comments you have.
Thanks, Lorna. Claire, do you want to add anything, or can I open it up? Okay, we'll open it up today, and we'll go either questions or comments. You won't take them separately. So if you want to mix them in, because it's just the one item of the report, I'm happy to do that today. Councillor Mitt.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think if we're going to jump to comments, first and foremost is to commend both of you, Lorna Clare, and the wider team really on not only a really good comprehensive report, but to be, 7 out of the top 100. Was that right, Lorna? 7 of the, but to be top then out of not just Welsh councils but UK councils is the question I was going to ask, because within the body of the report, obviously, when you talk about inclusivity and the diverseness of what you've managed to do with the website, especially, notwithstanding the other important things that are in there, but there's the language stuff, the translation stuff, but then there's the disability stuff as well, and I think my comment really and my question is, why aren't we shouting out about that? We're always banging on about negativity, and having negative press and everything, and forgive me, Chair, if it has gone out there and I've missed it, and I please accept my apologies, but I don't recall seeing it, because this is really, really something to shout out about. It's really important that this council gets recognised for the work that they've done to be at that standard, and to be recognised in that. That was my question, but as we're taking comments, I just wanted to say, it's a really good comprehensive retrospective report, Chair. Thank you.
Lorna?
Yeah, with the scoring, it's the Silk Tide Accessibility Index, and we're ranking 100 out of 100, whereas we were previously about 40 out of 100, which was ranked as poor. We've done a lot of work in the background on the website. The development team have done a lot of that work, and we've increased that score. So it's out of, I think the last time was about 406 local authorities websites were tested, and they tested on things like their PDFs on their website, the content, but it is to do with website accessibility. A lot of our work in our accessibility working group is also about, how do we ensure that we produce easy read versions for the community? We still need to ensure that we produce paper copies, because some members of the community prefer that and that meets their needs. So we're still working on that, and also how we write our information. If we write things in a very formal way, sometimes that doesn't translate to some communities and some people who may have learning disabilities, for example. So we're trying to ensure that we're looking at all those different ways. But yeah, regarding the Silk Tide, it was 7 at the moment, and we're joint first. So I think it is a great achievement. And also, Recite Me, we did, I think we sent a lot of information out internally, and we also did a demo at our 50 plus forum, the last 50 plus forum, and we did have some positive feedback from that as well. People who may not feel comfortable to use the website now feeling that perhaps I will go on there and have a little look at this accessibility toolbar. And I think the thing for me is the languages as well. We've got a lot of communities in Merthyr that might not speak first language English or Welsh. People who might be alone in the community, not have much family around. How do they know how they can access things like grants? And with the cost of living, for example, right now, how do they know that they can get information and access to it? And I think this helps and removes that barrier that people do face in the community. But I do recognise there's still a long way to go, of course, like with anything. But we are working towards that, and obviously continuing to add actions into our plan and deliver them.
Thanks, Lorna. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, I've got two questions actually from Councillor Minette Vaux, who sent them in because she's unable to attend today. Will Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council ensure that they seek any and all opportunities to ensure that the rich and diverse LGBTQIA plus community is included and represented? Do you want to answer that one and ask for the next one?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, when we engage and consult and we discuss with the communities, we do involve all communities in Merthyr. So yeah, we haven't got a large community, as in there's no focus groups or forums for the LGBT community within Merthyr. I think they were previously, but there's not so much. And our work with the third sector on our loneliness and isolation, we're looking at ways to look at loneliness and isolation in that group for LGBT people. We do support Pride events. We've got a Proud Councils network, which we're involved in with, I think it's about 10 other local authorities now. We do a significant amount of work regarding that. We were also nominated for a Pink News Award for our work with Proud Councils. So we are doing a lot regarding, Pride Month, raising awareness of different celebration days. So yeah, and as always with any of our communities, we will ensure that everyone's included.
Okay, thanks, Lorna. Probably leads me on to the next question. We're talking about pride and support. What Councillor Minette-Vokes would like to ask now is if there was a local pride event planned for Merthyr Tydfil, which I know there is talk of, what support will be given by Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council?
Regarding any future Pride events, obviously this report relates to the 2021-2022, so obviously no discussions have been had during that time. Clay and I haven't had any formal discussions about any Pride events. Obviously we're open to those conversations. I know a lot of local authorities have held Pride events in their areas. Some have taken a long time to get that decision through. Others have done it quite quickly. So it is only Claire within the organisation who's our diversity inclusion officer. So yeah, I think further discussion could be had on the support available, but obviously I 100% support Pride events. So yeah, that's something that we can discuss further. But regarding this report, that's not contained in it because it wasn't during that year.
That's fine. It's probably a question which you've answered anyway, and and you're open to supporting it. So I'm sure that's more than adequate anyway. Councillor Barry.
Yeah, just on the back of that, Chair, really, it's the question of an event of that magnitude is a lot wider. Obviously, there's financial implications. We're looking to recruit an events coordinator as well through the SPF money that's coming, and they'll be sort of heavily involved because it will be there's a huge economic impact with something like a Pride event as well. So it will be looked at undoubtedly, but it's a much wider issue rather than just an equalities issue.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and as Councillor Barry has mentioned, there is a high resource. It will be highly resource intensive, and I know a lot of other local authorities have had a lot of support from other organisations as well. It's not just been them; they've just supported it rather than actually ran with it. But yeah, we welcome to those discussions.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a couple of questions, but the first one is probably quite lengthy, so I'll give a little bit of background into it as a comment, then probably ask the question, Lorna, not to come at you from the blind side. So it's in relation to page 23 of the report, which is part 11 of the appendix, where it says below is a summary of the progress against delivering equality objectives within our strategic quality plan 2020-2024. Theme is community cohesion objective, promote and facilitate inclusive, safe and cohesive communities. Now, Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council was officially granted white ribbon status on the 25th of November 2014 in recognition for demonstrating commitment to the aims of White Ribbon campaign that promotes men ending violence against women. Aims of the campaign involving men and boys in prevention activities by mobilising men, the anti-violence against women and girls messages increases effectiveness and reach, and obviously addressing and altering social norms that lead to violent behaviour against women, increasing awareness on the issue and providing services aimed at reducing the incident of domestic violence. So for me, I'm quite sad to see there was no awareness raised this year by the local authority on the White Ribbon event. This is held every year on the 25th of November. The event calls for activism from men to take the pledge to end violence against women. RCT and Cardiff Council have held events, including marches and vigils. However, there's no event awareness raised by Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council. As an employer, the council has 629 males that could be called to action. The authority has 1,758 women working for them. Domestic abuse is gendered crime, and statistics shows that 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence and abuse. So my question is, and I'm sorry for this, can I ask why this has not been included in the plan?
Okay, so what we do every year, we develop an equalities calendar every January, and we add on the events that are going on throughout the year, but also celebration days. Obviously, with our resources, we put out as much as we can regarding communications and engage, campaigns for awareness raising. So that is on our calendar, and we do distribute that to all staff every year. This year, I know Community Cohesion and us, we work together to decide who's doing what days. And I don't think anything, like I said, was put out this year on that, but we don't do something on everything every single year. Because there's lots of celebration days, months, weeks, and things like that. That is definitely something that we could look for, obviously, to ensure that we do next year. But within our actual plan, there's no specific actions on we will promote this specific day. It is generally we will promote these awareness days. And I know in the past we have worked with other organisations, and I think there's been photo opportunities and things like that. But that is something that we will ensure that we put on that plan, and maybe specifically if you would like a specific action in the strategic equality plan on it. But work, we will ensure that we will do that next time. If there's
Okay.
anything else on.
Okay, no, great. No, I appreciate your honesty and your candidacy with it. It's something which I think should be included. I'm not sure about other members, but I certainly think so. So I would like to request the plan to be amended, really, to ensure the White Ribbon event under the theme Community Cohesion, please.
What would be useful for us as well is obviously if there's any key dates that you think we definitely want to promote this and be involved in as well, and not just actually raise awareness and raise a flag for it, or actually do an event for, and that'd be really useful to us as well if you you can pinpoint key dates, so we're not doing the same days and celebration dates all the time. We actually look for different days as well.
Yeah, just quickly, sorry, Lee. Can I?
Well, it's just based on that comment, and if maybe you could speak to New Pathways and do an event in conjunction with them, I think that might be worthwhile.
Thanks, Lee. And yeah, I was just going to touch on there are relevant partner agencies out there, aren't there, like Safe from Earth and things as well, who can support in this area, and this will help form stronger working links in the community and that sort of thing. Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on what Lorna was saying, I don't know if you're aware, but a major player within the White Ribbon campaign is Unison themselves, the union. I think it's Helen Burton is the lead officer within Unison. We've been working with Merthyr Rugby Club to set up an events and join in with that. And I do believe there's a working group in it as well. We meet with regularly. I see the emails come in, so if you haven't got that detail, it's Helen Burton of Unison.
Thanks, Gary. Lorna, is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple of other questions. Not so long, actually, so you're okay, and don't come with anything else. In terms, you talked a little bit about the Recite Toolkit, which does sound like a great piece of software. Do you know what the cost was for it to purchase? And has it provided value for money? It appears it has, but I just wanted to confirm it. So.
Yes, so we had a 3-year license for Recite Me. It came to about £12,000 for the 3-year license. That's not just for our corporate website, that's for all our subsites as well. So there's 7 subsites that they're rolling out that Recite Me on at the minute. Our corporate website was the first one that we put it on. So the other ones, like I said, are in progress. But yeah, it was about 13,000 over 3 years. I personally feel it is valuable. Because we should be making things more accessible for people, and that is a low cost. And obviously we will review that then in the 3 years. But yeah, for me, I feel that is it's been valuable and will continue to be valuable for the other subsites like Live in Merthyr, Living Well, and all the other subsites that we do have.
Brilliant, thanks, Lorna. I certainly think so from reading the report, but I just wanted to confirm that. Section 6.3 of the report mentions training for staff. Have officers across the council received training specifically around the integrated impact assessment and how to complete it? Can be a little complex to decipher. So just wondering how we've supported and continue to support officers with this.
Yeah, so we have done training sessions with corporate management team and senior leadership team on the impact assessment. Obviously, when the socioeconomic duty came into force, we had to change the IIA as well. So we added in the new sections on socioeconomic consultation and data. So they were trained on that, and obviously we do review that. We've held some an information session with members, two sessions, I think it was last month. Not everyone attended, but that was quite well received from members. And also we have a lot of information pages on our intranet, and we signpost them, signpost staff to the training. We've done slides, prompt sheets, easy read versions of our guidance and our overall guidance. So yeah, we have provided training. We haven't done an all staff training program, but we have made sure that we've provided resources for people. We also support in the development of the IEAs as well. So if people need assistance, advice, guidance, they'll come to us and we'll provide some support and review IIAs as well. Not all of them, but some of them before they go. We've recently had an equality impact assessment audit as well by Audit Wales. And we were actually mentioned in there positively about our data. We do signpost people to our data, which a lot of other authorities don't. So yeah, we had some positive feedback from that. But yeah, to answer your question, we do provide training, and we just continue to do that and roll that out when we require it.
Great, thanks, Lorna. I appreciate you can't do everything for everybody, but if there are support mechanisms there in place, then that's a bonus and it's a good thing. Also on section 6.3, it mentions that the paragraph mentioned we want to continue to score highly on the Skill Tide website accessibility index. How often is the score reviewed or evaluated? And is it scored externally or is it an internal thing the council does?
Silk Tide Accessibility Index is external. So they look at our website and they test different PDFs, and they do that monthly. So there's a new score every month. And what happens then with the legislation, the accessibility regulations, we have to provide and publish an accessibility statement, which is on our website. That then gets updated every month to reflect any new score that we have. So yeah, that's what that is. It's done externally. So we got no control over that. But obviously the work that we've done in the development team to, you know, in the background of the website, it is really has enhanced our score. I think that answers that question.
That's great. Thanks, Lorna. Forgive me, I have got a couple more questions and you'll probably regret coming in today. But I can see under the performance assessment on the annual equality report, pages 23 to 28 of the report pack, that plenty of work has been done to engage with our communities, which is really positive. This includes a variety of awareness days, events and activities. Have we received any feedback on any of this work from members of the public? And if so, has it been positive? Have we sought feedback?
Can I just ask what working specifically, what feedback for any specific events?
It is in terms of the days and events and activities which you've done really in general.
Yeah, so I think some teams, for example, Community Cohesion, they run events as well, and they get their own feedback because they've got to submit that back to Welsh Government. We've hosted events, like we've had our 50+ forum, we had feedback on that, which was quite positive. And also any consultation and engagements that we do ask, can we have feedback on that? Regarding the data gathering, I mean, and engaging with people, we are trying to improve that. And when we consult and engage, we should be putting out equality monitoring forms to find out, well, who people are, and are we getting a lot of responses from a certain ward, or are we getting a lot of responses from a certain group, so we can look to see, well, is this a representative sample of all the communities that we have? Because, you know, no two people are the same, even if they may look the same, they're not, and we need to make sure that we're hearing the voices of different communities. So that's something that we're promoting as well on our data gathering. But yeah, we do have feedback from various events.
That's great. That's good. Pleasing to hear. Thank you. Page 39 to 40 mentions accessibility of information and services digitally. How are we supporting people to access the information and services they need that don't have access to the internet and our digital services?
Yeah, so under the Equality Act, we do have a duty to make reasonable adjustments. And obviously, if we put in more services digitally, we still have to be mindful of things going out in paper format and in different formats to meet people's needs. Regarding getting people online. I know there's lots of things happening in the community to try and get people online. And that is something that I think in our older persons work, in the action plan that we're going to be developing for older people and an age-friendly nation, would be to include things like, how do we get people more online and feeling more confident to use services? So yeah, there's stuff being done in the community, but I think that will form part of the next plan, but also our aging well plan as well. And it's not just to do with older people. Other people, maybe younger, may not feel comfortable to access things digitally, may not have a mobile phone. And obviously, we're all seeing the impact of COVID-19. And during this time, during the report, there were still lockdowns going on. There were still changes, and we were seeing a little bit of the impact of what the first lockdowns were having, the economy, for people's lives. And now we've got a cost of living crisis as well, which has further made more problems, especially those who may be in socioeconomically disadvantaged areas, maybe area deprived or on low income. So yeah, we do need to still be mindful of that. And our accessibility work will continue to ensure that we meet those people's needs as well.
Okay, thanks, Lorna. You'll be pleased to know, so my last question. On page 47 to 48 of the report, what support, if deemed necessary, is being provided to staff whose first language is in English?
So within our annual equality report, within the end, we do have our workforce data. Workforce data is held centrally by the HR department. You just bear with me one moment, sorry, while I pull it. Bear with me, sorry, let me just find the data. You go to the workforce data in the last section, it does actually identify people with the different languages that they have within the local authority. So as of 21-22, so March 2022, we had 1,723 people speaking English, first language, 34 Welsh, and then we had Polish, German, Portuguese, French, Hungarian, Romanian. Obviously, we have a duty legally to make things bilingual in Welsh. There's nothing that states about the others other than making reasonable adjustments or, under the Equality Act. So if a request came in for something in a different language, we would assess that as, yeah, that's a reasonable adjustment. We would provide it in a different language. To my knowledge, we haven't had any requests come in from any other languages about our communications, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, we would support people who speak different languages in the local authority, of course. And if they prefer to have things in their own language and their first language, then we would do all we can to make sure that they were able to access that information. But yeah, as you can see, it's predominantly people who speak English first language. But there are other languages that people do speak, and we will continue to support them.
Okay, and are you talking, when I'm talking about staff predominantly, but you're talking customers as well then, yeah?
This is the workforce data. So in the end of the annual equality report, that's just workforce data, that's staff that work here. Regarding data in the community, obviously our census data, we haven't had it all through yet, but some of that information will tell us about different languages in the community. We've also got Stats Wales, Data Cymru, they tell us different things about things in the community as well. We don't hold that information ourselves for the community. We just use like resources, Welsh Government, etc., for those stats. But yeah, also with regards to people in the community, Recite Me can help with the website, but also if a request came in, on all our documentation, really, we should be saying, this is available in other formats upon request, and then we will assess that then and then produce that in their format, not just languages, but also things like Braille and other things where people got visual impairments as well that we would provide.
Excellent, thanks, Lorna. Councillor Davis, Councillor Jones, have you got any questions, comments?
The subject has been broached. It's great news that you've worked hard to get the plan up from 40 to 100. But my concern is when it was down at 40 and people tried to access it, do you think that they were put off trying that way to access information again? I know when I personally tried to access various subjects, if it doesn't work the first once or twice, I say, oh, that's hopeless, and give up. So what have you done to try and increase people's ability to use it and confidence in using the system?
Yeah, so that silk-tied index, it looks at the things like PDFs on the pages. So it's a lot of work that's gone on in the background. Visually, it may not look that different to some people because it's on about the website accessibility, so stuff in the background, the PDFs that are tested. Some of the things I think you might be talking about is the next phase of our accessibility working group now is how we put in information on there. Is it easy to read? Are we putting too much information on there? Are we putting too little information on there? Am I writing it to regulators, or to in a formal way, which we would write documents to ensure that we're meeting our duties, or we're writing in a way that someone who has a learning disability or someone, cause they say that you should be writing information with a target audience of a reading age 9 to make people fully understand. But we don't always do that because we use big words, corporate words, fancy words, which members of the public they might not recognize. So that could be problematic as well. But the next phase of our accessibility working group is looking at all that and tackling, well, how do we write this now? How are we going to get people more on board, which could then encourage more people to use the website. There will be people in the community that won't want to use the website through perhaps bad experiences in the past, or they just don't want to use the website. They don't trust it, for example. And we could look potentially to put on training and work with the third sector, work with other organisations to look at training in the community for older people. Our 50 Plus Forum, for example, that could be one of the agenda items there where we could provide support to people coming into the local authority and showing them how to, try and get a new green bin and things like that to try and encourage more people to go online. So we are supporting people, but we haven't provided any specific training to people. But that's something that we could do on our next plan and make sure that we do train people for that. It's a very difficult one, that is, isn't it, for getting the community. Everyone's needs are so different. So one person's reasons for not wanting to go online can be different to someone else's.
Thank you. Thank you for that. In a recent Public Health Wales report, this is more about our older residents again, only 18% of them showed us having mobile phones that could access the internet. Many people have got mobile phones, but not smartphones. So you've mentioned the 50 Plus Forum. What other things can we do to get information to those people? I know you're saying that paper copies are available, but how do the people find out that they're available? And are you looking at any other means of communicating with those people?
Yeah, I think within our first objective, we want participation from all members of society, and we want to make sure more people are included. Within that, within the actions, like I said, we're looking at the paper copies and making sure that they have them, but also raising the importance of that throughout staff and all our staff, the communications engagement team, making sure that we're not just putting things out on the internet, on social media. It has to be wider than that. We can't just assume that everyone is online because they're not. And also, like I mentioned earlier, with the socioeconomic element, people switch off their internet to pay for something else. That is the dire situation that perhaps some communities are going to be in now. So we got to consider that aspect as well. People previously going online might not be able to afford to go online anymore. So how are they going to know where they can get a grant from, or they can get something, a free school meal, and things like that. So yeah, there's other forums, I think, in the community, lots of different groups. But it would be things like, our staff own signposting that to members of the community, and things like that, I think, that we can promote.
Marvellous, thank you very much. At those angles.
Mr. Thomas, any questions, comments?
I think obviously it's a major overarching report that we have, as good as it is, but it's how it's fed by the strategies below. and the work streams below. So, we've got a key objective there, engage with our citizens and participate. Yet we haven't yet got a participation strategy. So, it's bringing those things together. That's probably for discussion after this meeting, how that fits into the overall programme to make sure we got that in place to feed into next year's report, so we have a better understanding of our participation. So my interest is rather the overarching, is the building blocks below and how they feed up into the overall report, such as the contact centre, such as the information databases we have, how we feed that out and access to the public who want to come in face to face. So that's generally I'd be looking for, rather than homing in on a very good report as it is at the moment.
That's great. Gary, you actually touched on something which was supposed to be on the agenda today, but unfortunately it's not. And it's something we're going to talk about on item 4, the forward work programme. So we'll park that for the minute. We'll come back to that now in a minute. Councillor Mitten, you okay? Okay. On behalf of myself and obviously everyone here in the committee today, thank you for today. I hope it wasn't too onerous for you and the questions too taxing. The report itself, great. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending. Thanks for taking the time, and thanks for being so honest with all your answers as well and so candid. So you're now free to go. Have your passport stamped at the door? Okay. Moving on to agenda item 4, the forward work programme. There was an issue on today's agenda in terms of the participation strategy, Gary. It was brought, and this is something we talked about in the pre-meet last week, David, was it? Last Thursday. It was brought to my attention as chair just 2 weeks ago, actually, that this report wouldn't be coming to today's meeting, which for me was quite rightly unacceptable, especially in line of the fact that they've had since the 17th of August to get this report ready. But in fact, I think it goes back a little further than that, to when the participation strategy for each authority should have been developed. And I believe it's something like 2021. So the authority have known about it since 2021. And obviously disappointingly that it's not on the agenda for today, actually. So this is something which we talked about. I wrote to Kerry Dinham, and I also wrote to Ellis and Alan asking for the reasons why. Kerry phoned me within 10 minutes to apologise. I haven't heard anything yet from Ellis or Alan on the subject. So hence, I wanted to bring it to the Scrutiny Committee today to get everybody's thoughts and opinions on it and see if we can find a way forward. And Gary, you're quite right. It probably underpins a lot of the things which are on this report this evening. So for me, it was quite disappointing, but probably the most disappointing aspect of everything was not knowing until 2 weeks ago, when if we had known previously, a month or so ago, we could have moved things forward and had a bigger agenda this evening and brought something in. So that's a disappointing aspect for me. I'll hand it over then to the members' thoughts and opinions on how to proceed with this.
Yeah, Chair, happy to come in there. Well, I think that, if you look back at the timeline, if it was, we were talking August originally, and now we're talking December 20th, I think that there's no other action other than to have it and look at our agenda for the next meeting, and that participation strategy comes in then, because like my colleague Gary has said, it does inform a lot of what we're looking at and other policies that we're looking at. So, if we delay it even further, it takes out those pieces of the jigsaw and it just muggles things up a little bit. So I think the emphasis would be that it comes in sooner rather than later. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Mitten. Anybody else? Mr. Thomas?
It's disappointing, Chair, because I only just looked at the programme we have going forward, and as you say, it's been in being now for some time. This is this strategy. Disappointing that the Chief Executive, the Deputy, haven't come back with a formal response to for the delay in the report coming forward. So I think perhaps it's worth pushing that, because I wouldn't have liked that as an officer myself. So it's worth doing that, I think. And a question I'd ask as well: how much progress have we made? Can we see what work you've done to date? Can we see the draft? We may be able to help you to take it forward. Do you need support from elsewhere regarding the completion of the exercise? So it's those questions of supportive rather than challenging, because there is a deadline to work to, and it will underpin what we're looking to achieve in other areas in the future, especially the rest of the work programme as well. So you need an answer to that. If scrutiny is going to be effective in that way, answer the question: why is it delayed? What work have you done? Can we see what you've done? And what support perhaps do you require?
Great, thanks, Guy. Councillor Jones, Councillor Davis, do you want to add any comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I agree with Councillor Mitten's comments that we should try and get it in as soon as possible. It coincides with Gary as well. But if the report isn't ready, personally, if the report isn't ready, we need to know where it is and when it may be available. Though the second part of it, the 31st of January scrutiny meeting, we've already got 3 quite large items on the agenda, and that it may mean juggling those as well.
That's open to another conversation, David, which we'll come on to. Those three items may come down to one as well. Safe will explain which 2 might come out.
Yeah, so basically, one of our key officers who was meant to be leading on those items is off ill at the moment. And we've got no sort of time scale of when he'll be returning to work. One of them is the corporate plan, which, to be honest, wouldn't be ready by the 31st of January anyway. We're probably looking around April time for that item. And the other one was around the sort of progress of scrutiny. So it was the scrutiny improvement program. And again, with that one, one of our officers, as I said, who's off ill, was meant to be liaising with the WLGA to provide a piece of work on that to bring to scrutiny. But again, I think, because of his illness, we can't really hold that in January. And on top of that, I think it'd probably be more prudent to hold that sort of item 6 months from now. So we've got like a full 12-month review of progress of scrutiny rather than a 6-monthly one. So yeah, that just leaves us then with the EU report, which is scheduled for January, which might be a meaty report. But yeah, as I said, it might just be that one report in January.
Thanks, Safe. Councillor Jones has answered your question. I appreciate it may be slightly disappointing, but I think those 2 items could be moved on without too much disruption, which would enable us and hopefully get this participation report in.
I agree, Chair. But if it means there's only one item on the agenda, depending on how far the other strategy has gone, the participation strategy, if that isn't available either, do we need to bring something backwards? We need to have an answer to how far the participation strategy is, because it's a good scrutiny, and I'm confident that we can deal with 2 items. We need to know where the participation strategy is and whether we need to bring something forward.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. No, I totally agree, and this is why we're talking about it today. We need to have conversations with the Chief Executive and the Deputy Chief Executive and Head of Corporate Comms to find out these answers to a lot of these pertinent questions from Councillor Thomas and from yourselves as well. So we'll do that as a matter of urgency now. Shall I write to them, Safe, or are you going to write to them, or is it better coming from me? It's probably better coming from me, I suppose, is it? Yeah. I'll write to them and I'll copy you all in, so you can all see the communications. So it's total transparency. I have nothing to hide. Yeah, Siv, can I just clarify then what we're going to write to them for? You've written them down by there, yeah? Yeah.
Establish how much progress has been.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So are you happy to progress in that way? I'll do that. I'll do that tomorrow. I'm working from home tomorrow, so I'll ensure that is sent off tomorrow. Yeah, that's fine. No problem at all. Okay, as long as you're all happy with that, yeah? Okay, and after we get the result of that, then we can look at then Councillor Jones if we need to bring something else into the meeting for January. So we'll wait and see for that. Correct. Yeah, that's right.
As I'm new to this game from this side, question I ask now is that if you don't get a positive response or a response that's helpful, such as it's not ready, it's not going to be ready, what recourse then as scrutiny have to say, well, it's not good enough. We want to know what's happening. You've set the program. We want to know why it's not happening, and it should be happening. Because otherwise it's just going to stall again. If it is a deadline for this strategy, I assume it must be set by now. Are we going to meet it or not meet it? If you're not going to meet it, what are the sanctions for that? What are the penalties for that, if there are any? So you need to understand the implications of not meeting the target would have been set on the project plan in the early days anyway.
Okay, in terms of that, if the participation strategy doesn't arrive, can we call them into the next meeting to answer these questions and to go through everything? Conscious of the fact that as a scrutiny, we are to scrutinise the reports and what we do and etc. with regards to the council. However, it's probably not our job to manage staff to get these reports then, is it? It's probably a fine line of how we do this. So I'm not quite sure how we proceed in it, Gary, to be honest.
The right to ask somebody to come along to explain, give you the reasons why, if you haven't had it beforehand, but obviously it's not for us to impose instructions on them to do it. That's a matter for officers and cabinet. We just challenge in what they're doing in an appropriate manner to see where they need support to get it done.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, they could come along and give a progress report and give a presentation and challenge them on that presentation if the report isn't already.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. Are we all happy to proceed on that lines for January then? Yeah.
Even if the report isn't due, we need an update, don't we? So
Communication say that
Yeah.
positive response, you're happy.
Yeah, great. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Okay, thank you. You can probably see now the importance and why we brought it in on agenda item 4 for the forward work programme. In terms, we'll move on into agenda item 5, scrutiny referrals. There aren't any. In terms of the item 6, the report recommendations, were we happy with the report we received today and the amount of questions and the content of the report?
very well, comprehensively as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think she was excellent today, actually. Okay, agenda item 7, feedback on scrutiny activities. There's no recent activities to feedback for this report. Agenda item 8, any other business deemed urgent. I haven't got any other agenda items deemed urgent. So thank you all for attending today. We'll bring this meeting to a close. I hope you all have a great Christmas, an excellent New Year, and spend some good quality time with your families and loved ones. Merry Christmas.